the nightcap of Thanksgiving was the Cincinnati Bengals going on the road to Baltimore and beating the Ravens 32-14. Joe Burrow, in his return, played pretty darn well. Do we have the Joe Burrow graphic? Yes, we do. Here it is. Joe Burrow, last night against the Ravens, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 52% completion, 261 yards, 83 passer rating, QBR 0-100 of 59. So a solid outing by Burrow's return, considering the fact that he hasn't played in 2.5 months. For Cincinnati, and then we'll talk Baltimore, they're back in the division race. Like they're not going to win out and get that last playoff spot in the AFC. That's too much ground to have to make up. That they have to win out. Basically, you could argue they maybe have to win out to a certain degree, or only lose one more game in order to win the AFC North. The AFC North today is a type of division where I think 8-9 could get you in. 9-8 I think will get you in. First team to 9 gets in the postseason. But if you look at the AFC North today, and I'm a Steelers fan, so on one hand I was like, yes, great, Ravens, winning streak. Stops at 5. The Steelers are back in first. We'll see what we do against Buffalo in a critical game this weekend. But when you consider the fact that Pittsburgh and Baltimore still play each other twice the rest of the year, when you consider the fact that now Cincinnati's done playing Pittsburgh, but when you consider the Pittsburgh schedule the rest of the way, and I've said this for many weeks, is why I'm a Steelers skeptic as a Steelers fan. Steelers schedule the rest of the way. Bills, at the Ravens. Dolphins, that's an easy one. At the Lions, at Cleveland in that defense. Ravens at home. That is a tough schedule the rest of the way. And as for Baltimore, the team that has a first-place schedule the rest of the way, they've got Pittsburgh, at the Bengals again, Patriots at home, at the Packers, at the Steelers. That is a murderer's row of a schedule. Cincinnati, on the other hand, not so bad. At Buffalo, that's kind of tough. Ravens, at Miami, Arizona, and the Browns, but that game is in Cincinnati. I am by no means predicting the Bengals to win this division, but I think when you have a Joe Burrow who was healthy, who was whole, who, by the way, did all this without T. Higgins, Jamar Chase was back, in the lineup. The Bengals ran the football effectively. They turned, the Ravens over multiple times. This is a type of situation. I was big on my show, after that loss on Sunday to New England, they fall to 3-8. Don't start Joe Burrow this week. It's a short week. It's at Baltimore, Thanksgiving. I know it's fun to see Joe Burrow back. He's one of the best players in the league at his position. We don't want to see him get hurt out there. And Cincinnati's offensive line still isn't very good, but he gives him a shot. Again, there's certain quarterbacks, the Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, Stafford, Dak, Burrow. There's certain guys, man, they've been around the block. They've seen a lot of things in this league, playoff experience. And if you have them on, under center, you have a chance to win every single game that you play. Doesn't mean you will, obviously, but you've got a shot. And the Bengals, by the way, this year, for what it's worth, 3-0 when Burrow plays. Beat Cleveland in week 1. Burrow got hurt early in that Jacksonville game, but he does get credit for the win. And then last night against Baltimore, with any prayer chance they have at making the playoffs as the division champion is up in the air, and he played relatively well. The defense forced a lot of turnovers. The Bengals were solid yesterday. And again, if you have a quarterback of that caliber, you're only 2 games back. If the Steelers were to lose this weekend to Buffalo, now all of a sudden you look up, hey, we're a couple games back. We're in this thing. I don't know if they have the tiebreaker with Pittsburgh, because they beat Pittsburgh and then that flipped a couple of weeks ago. But the Steelers got to play the Bills and the Ravens twice, and and Detroit. That schedule is brutal. Baltimore down the stretch, it's a murderer's row of teams. Not the case in Cincinnati. Got a couple of tough games with the Ravens and with the Bills. After that, Cardinals, Dolphins, Browns is a tough defense, but that game's in Cincinnati with potentially the division on the line. That was a solid performance, and Joe Burrow was accurate. Joe Burrow was at least accurate in the second half. Got off to a little bit of a slow start. The turnover certainly aided Cincinnati, but Joe Burrow talked about his performance after the game.
It was great to be back out there. I was, a lot of emotions running through it at the end of the game, so it's just good to be back with the guys.
If you're going to grade yourself, what would you give your grade today? Time back in game?
I thought second half I started to put it more where I wanted and settled in a little bit. Certainly missed some throws early that I typically make. But after that, I felt pretty comfortable back there. I thought the O-line did great. We ran it well. Obviously, defense played great. So I'm just going to keep getting better.
Oh, sorry. I sound muted. Okay. Thank you. Barry Grant Jr. and Patrick Brown. Apologize for that, guys. Thank you so much for letting me know in the comments. Yeah, my mic was muted there. Okay, so there you go. So, but no, what I was saying though was, with Burrow and with the Bengals, it goes to show you the importance of a franchise quarterback. It goes to show you the value of having a franchise / elite quarterback. And with Cincinnati, we don't trust their ownership. We don't trust Mike Brown. None of us really buy Zach Taylor. Jamar Chase did the spitting incident a couple weeks ago with Jalen Ramsey, which I talked about in the show. And T. Higgins was out last night. The Bengals defense, which was good last night, but it's been the worst defense of football this season. And the Steelers are better run. The Ravens are better run. The Bengals have had more, the Browns have been in the playoffs more recently than Cincinnati. But you institute Burrow, you institute the guy. JJ McCarthy says he has an alter ego of 9. I think that belongs to Burrow. And that was a really impressive win by the Cincinnati Bengals. Kept their season alive. There's no question about it. Sorry about the mic muter. Thanks to Barry and thanks to Patrick for letting me know in the comments. That was that's unfortunate. Let's talk about the Ravens side of us, though. So obviously they're still very much in the division race. If the Steelers lose on Sunday to the Buffalo Bills, I think they're back. I know they're back tied for first. For whatever reason, I don't know if he came back too soon. I'm not sure what's up. Lamar Jackson's been atrocious in the last 3 games. And the Ravens offense, outside of that one win against Miami, which, come on, has not looked even – it does not even resemble a Lamar Jackson Ravens offense. But look at Lamar in the last 3 games. He's been a bad quarterback. And I think Lamar's the third best quarterback in football, but he's been awful last 3 games. No touchdowns in the last 3 games. 5 turnovers, 55% completion, 213 total yards, 63 rating, 28, 0 to 100, 28 QBR, and he has been sacked 8 times in the last 3 games. I thought last night his accuracy was off. Obviously, his decision-making was terrible. Multiple turnovers, the fumbles killed him, but was missing Zay Flowers, didn't look kind of jittery. I don't know if maybe it's playing on Thanksgiving. I don't know, but just did not look like the Lamar Jackson that we're used to seeing. Like it's, when certain athletes that are so athletically gifted kind of get into a rut, Steph Curry's talked about this. Like, you don't look at Steph Curry, obviously he's an all-time great athlete, but just as a physical specimen. No one views him as that. But Steph Curry's greatness is hand-eye coordination, is, seeing the floor, is a level of depth perception that might be unparalleled in modern human history. But when Steph Curry goes into some of these shooting slumps, it's, okay, get back to the basics. It's footwork. Maybe it's my form. Work with Bruce Frazier, one of the assistant coaches of the Warriors. Like, let's work on a few things. Let's get this thing back. I've taken a lot of shots over the course of my life. Let's rely on the experience that I have. And then he gets back into it. Josh Allen's had similar struggles, like, again, go back to football. Josh Allen's had that. Mahomes has had that, some mechanical issues. I think that's what the issue is with Lamar right now. His feet aren't set. He's not throwing very well on the run. He's overthrowing guys. Again, the decision-making has not been good. I think a lot of this for Lamar Jackson is going to be, hey, we got 10 days off. Who do the Ravens have next week? I think the Ravens have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, so there you go. It's a huge divisional game a couple of Sundays from now. And getting in the lab over the course of the next 10 days, working with guys, working with Mark Andrews, with Zay Flowers, with DeAndre Hopkins and these guys. Let's get the timing back down. Again, come back mid-season. Cooper Rush was in there, but then Tyler Huntley had the win. We've won 5 straight games. The defense, last night notwithstanding, has been pretty good since the bye in this 5-game winning streak that we just had. It's just going to come down to whether our offense can be consistent, because they scored 40 on Buffalo in week 1. They were great against the Browns defense, which is saying a lot. Had an explosive fourth quarter, kind of struggled against Kansas City in the game where Lamar got hurt, and then hasn't looked the same since. Had a great second half against the Miami Dolphins, but struggled against the Browns, and struggled against, which, again, the Browns have a great defense, but still they took a Mark Andrews fake tush-push run touchdown just to win that game against Shedeur Sanders, who comes off the bench and goes 4 for 16. And then last week, of course, against the Jets, where if they had played 27 other teams, I think they probably lose that game, because they're playing the Jets and Tyrod Taylor in that offense. They're able to get out of there with the W. It's why I said partially not before the season started, but after week 1, that's not a Super Bowl contender. After they blew that lead to the Buffalo Bills, I said, I know it's one weekend. They're not a Super Bowl contender. If you blow that many double-digit leads in the John Harbaugh era in the last few years, I can't take you seriously. They can still absolutely win the division. I still think, with respect to Burrow, they have the best quarterback in the division. Defensively, the Browns are the best defensive division by far, but they just don't have the offense. The Browns aren't contending for the playoffs anytime soon. It's, again, turnovers killed him. Mechanically, Lamar looks off. And Lamar's the type of guy, and I tend to love this in my athletes, but it can be a blessing, it can be a curse. Lamar is so hard on himself. Like, when he missed a throw, he's like, slapping his helmet, gosh, darn it, you know. I'd much rather that than just be aloof, than be like, well, whatever, it is what it is. Who cares? You know, Tom Brady was that way. Peyton Manning was that way. Not aloof. They were like, oh, gosh darn it. You know, sometimes they would get after guys or be mad at themselves or whatever the case may be, getting into stuff with coaches. It's kind of the issues I've had with Aaron Rodgers over the years. If he's struggling, the offense is struggling, by and large, he kind of goes and sits by himself on the bench. That's not Lamar. He's fist bumping guys. Hey, let's go. We got this. Let's, one more drive. We're going to get things back on track. And that's a great leadership quality of Lamar. But Lamar at times doesn't have a short enough memory to, okay, bad play, let's move on to the next play. That's something that he's kind of struggled with over the course of his career. And again, it can be a blessing and it can be a curse. Last night was a curse. And Lamar Jackson talked about his turnovers last night after the Ravens loss.
No, I just got to be consistent. Can't have turnovers, especially in any game, not just this game, but any game. Can't have turnovers, 2 fumbles, in the interception, tip interception. We got to be consistent. We put our defense on the field too much. We can't have that.
And again, they beat themselves. There's no question about it. Like, I don't even want to say that Cincinnati's defense played that well. Sometimes turnovers are luck. Sometimes, the way the football's shaped, the way that it's shaped kind of funny. The ball can just bounce your way sometimes. Sometimes it's your day. Sometimes it's not. That's why defenses that tend to feed off of turnovers, I have a lot of skepticism of. My Steelers this year have kind of lived off turnovers. That's not always sustainable because you might be playing more efficient offense, a team that plays more smart, more efficient. And also sometimes turnovers are just dumb luck. I mean, you saw yesterday that the George Pickens fumble. There were 4 Chiefs in the area. Ball bounced a certain way. Kevontae Turpin hustled the ball, got on it, probably saved Dallas's bacon in that game. And so any defense that lives off of turnovers, I tend to be kind of hesitant with that because that's not always sustainable over a 17-game, 3.5, 4-month regular season. But that was a game for Baltimore you really wanted to get, especially given what your schedule looks like the rest of the way. But I'm telling you, I'm glad the Bengals won. So now Pittsburgh's number 1 in the division, but there's also part of me that's like, ugh, God, Cincinnati's not dead. I'm glad Pittsburgh played the Bengals twice without Joe Burrow. But their schedule is significantly easier than the Steelers, and it's way easier than Baltimore's. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.